right, we're going to shift gears. So this summer I got some new glasses. Yes, it's very exciting. And I got some new glasses online. Because if you're like, I've been wearing glasses since I was 13, so I'm very familiar with eye tests and so on, and it's kind of a pain to go and get glasses, particularly because, and I used to get mine at Costco, is I would take my glasses, as soon as I take my glasses off, I can't really see, all right? I mean, you're all just sort of modern art projects that are moving right now. So it's hard because then you got to try on these frames, and they obviously don't have the actual lenses, so I have to be with like 4 inches from the mirror, like, do I like that? That looks okay, right? So, and I didn't like my last pair, and so the movement now is that there are these websites that allow you to pick out frame selections, and there's this whole process, and they send you up to 5 just sets of frames. It just has dummy lenses in them, but and they let you keep them for a week, and then if you like one, you send them in, just scan your prescription, and like 3 days later, and $100 later, you have new glasses. And so it's fantastic. It like just changed the way I thought about it. So anyway, I bought mine through a company called Warby Parker. Also, I like to shop. I'm undude-like in that sense. I really like shopping. And so this is this lower picture here is a screenshot from our family's Amazon.com page. You know how it always shows like, here's what you've been looking at and so on and so forth. And I wanted you to pay particular attention to the hoodie, okay? Because I was checking out hipster hoodies this winter or this fall. I haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but so then this was a picture from my Facebook page, and Facebook has ads, right? Now you'll notice the top. There's an ad from Warby Parker. And then right below it on the same ad, there's an ad for hoodies. This ad appeared on my Facebook within 2 minutes of me getting off of those two sites, because I just kind of went from one to the other, and all of a sudden, and the Warby Parker ad in particular was like, here's a style you might like. I'm like, yes, I would like it. Do you know why? Because it's one of the 5 that I asked to be sent to my house for a demo. It happened within minutes. Here's another one. I like pants. So I was looking at Old Navy. I was looking at some pants. And then, right after I was looking at some pants, I went over to get some news, and lo and behold, there's a 30% off Old Navy ad that just popped up. And again, this was within a minute or so. Now, I don't know if you've experienced this, many of you probably have, but it's real clear when you look at things like this, you realize, wow, a lot of the websites are talking to each other. Right? Because at no point did I make any of those connections, yet the connections were made, and were made very, very quickly. And so there's a sense of, something's going on, something's happening here that's pretty big. And if you're not familiar with it, in terms of the world of technology, here's what's happening.
Over the past 6 months or so, a huge amount of attention has been paid to government snooping and the bulk collection and storage of vast amounts of raw data, all in the name of national security. What most of you don't know, or are just beginning to realize, is that a much greater and more immediate threat to your privacy is coming from thousands of companies you've never heard of in the name of commerce. They're called data brokers, and they're collecting, analyzing, and packaging some of our most sensitive personal information and selling it as a commodity to each other, to advertisers, even the government, often without our direct knowledge. Much of this is the kind of harmless consumer marketing that's been going on for decades. What's changed is the volume and nature of the data being mined from the internet and our mobile devices, and the growth of a multi-billion-dollar industry that operates in the shadows with virtually no oversight. Companies and marketing firms have been gathering information about customers and potential customers for years, collecting names and addresses, tracking credit card purchases, and asking people to fill out questionnaires so they can offer discounts and send catalogs. But today, people are giving up more and more private information about themselves online without knowing that it's being harvested and personalized and sold to lots of different people. Our likes and dislikes, our closest friends, our bad habits, even our daily movements, both on and offline. Federal Trade Commissioner Julie Brill says we've lost control of our most personal information.
Are people putting this together and making dossiers?
Absolutely.
With names attached to it, with personal identification?
The dossiers are about individuals. That's the whole point of these dossiers. It is information that is individually identified to an individual or linked to an individual.
Do you think most people know this information is being collected?
I think most people have no idea that it's being collected and sold and that it's personally identifiable about them and that the information is in basically a profile of them.
All right, so we have to define some terms here. She used a word in here, dossier. Now, I'm a James Bond fan, and so one of the things that the British Secret Service would put together a dossier on the bad guys, right? And it was top secret and so on. The idea of dossier, and you can read it here, it says a collection or file of documents on the same subject, especially a complete file containing detailed information about a person or topic. Now, when we say there's more going on than we know, I mean, I think we get a sense of that as it is, but we don't really know how it happens. And what we're starting to realize is that not only is it happening, but it's happening for very specific reasons. Now, anytime you talk with teenagers about technology, there's a little bit of there's a haze that comes over, and here's what it is. Teenagers tend to feel like, and in many ways it's true, that they're super dialed into technology and they know what's going on. Now we had a speaker who came here years ago, and her big message then, and this is when MySpace was starting to go down and Facebook was really starting to go up, but it was almost like every high school student had one or the other or both. And her big point at that time was, don't put personal information on your social media sites, because this is how the bad guys track you. And she literally showed how it happens. And the adults in the room were like, whoa. And so I had at the time a TA who was a senior. And so after chapel used to be in the morning back then, so after chapel she was TAing for me and she was working out in the junior high office, and I was asking her, I said, hey, what did you think of the assembly? And she said, I thought it was good. There's some good information in there. And where she got to was, it was really good information. I think the younger kids really benefited from that, younger being freshmen, sophomores. But we older kids, like we seniors, like we pretty much already know that. Now what she didn't know at the time is that I was looking at her Facebook page. Now again, what was the main point of the speaker that day? Don't put what? Personal information on your Facebook or MySpace page. What do you think was just littered throughout her Facebook page? Tons of personal information. Yet she's sitting here going, hey, that was great for ninth graders, but we got it. And I'm just thinking, oh, you're exactly who the speaker was talking about, and you don't even know it. So I bring that up to, and she was really smart. Right, she went on to college, great, I mean, great. But there was this kind of this, hey, I'm a teen, I'm techie, I'm hip, I got it. And yet she was the exact person the speaker was going, you're just setting yourself up for failure here. So I would ask you as you watch these things to go, what is there to learn about for me? Because there definitely is something. Here's the next part of this.
That data becomes much more valuable when it's married to the personal information that's being volunteered on the internet. Take 5 Solutions, a data broker in Boca Raton, Florida, runs 17 websites like GoodParentingToday.com and T5HealthyLiving.com, where people can share stories about their families and health. What web visitors don't realize is that Take 5's real business is collecting and selling the information.
There's all sorts of people coming on now.
That's right.
And there is also an invisible side to the internet that most people have never seen. When you're online visiting websites, you may think you're alone, but you're not, as digital privacy expert Ashkan Sultani showed us using a software program called Disconnect, which was created by a former Google engineer.
What's this stuff?
So when you visit the New York Times homepage, There's a number of companies on the page that are essentially tracking your visits.
When we clicked on NewYorkTimes.com, the software revealed the presence of more than a dozen third parties that the website had allowed in to observe our movements.
These are all companies that either place ads or measure people's behaviors on that site.
So as you're going through the web and doing your searching, you've got a whole crowd following you.
That's right.
There were ad networks and marketing and analytics companies measuring traffic and page views and cataloging our interests.
And some of this information you think is going to go to data brokers?
Definitely.
Wow, look at that.
We found the same thing going on at the 60 Minutes website. They are everywhere.
So they're really inside your computer.
They're inside your browser usually, or your mobile device, yes. They're called.
And you haven't necessarily invited them in.
You have not invited them in. And most computers or browsers allow them in by default.
Do companies collect your web browsing history?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, this is the primary piece of data collected online. As you click through the web and view car sites or read about the news, companies, these third parties, will collect your click stream as you click from site to site to site to see what you may be reading, what you may be interested in, what types of things you might buy.
And almost all of it is for sale, especially any personal information that you might volunteer. The more companies know about us, they say, the more efficient they can make the advertising. You're looking at one of the commercial pillars of the internet. Sultani took us to an online dating site called OkCupid, which asks visitors for all sorts of personal information.
Are you vegetarian or vegan? Do you drink? What's your relationship with marijuana? And what people don't realize, that here you're seeing all the third parties that are present on this site, right? So we're seeing.
So all these people are getting the information?
They're getting some of this information.
The website doesn't require users to give their real name, but the IP address and the computer ID number are recorded, and it's not difficult for data brokers to match that information with other online identifiers. There are firms that specialize in doing it.
So you can combine this data with other data that's available and figure out who someone is.
That's right.
By name, by email.
That's right.
The only way you would have known that is by going to the legal section of OkCupid's website, presuming you could find it. Then you'd have to scroll through 3 pages of terms and conditions before finding the privacy policy, which says you should appreciate that all information submitted on the website might potentially be publicly accessible.
So, here's the big thought shift that needs to happen. Again, profiling and gathering information has been going on a long time. Typically, it was done by the government and the military, right? Military intelligence. Now, here's the difference. One of the key differences. The people on the other end were trying to keep their information a secret. What we have now is people like you and me, through the internet, willingly giving anyone who wants it all kinds of private information. And so here's what we know. You and I are being tracked, profiled, and pursued. So that's why I started off with Warby Parker and hoodies and Old Navy pants. It's like, hey, here it is. Here's something you might like. Come get it. Now we're talking about eyeglasses and pants, all right? Not exactly major stuff here. But the idea of it is they're not just throwing general things my way. They're throwing very, very specific things my way. And there's an enticement there. They're talking to each other. I never asked them to do it, but they're doing it. But here are the big questions that we need to start thinking about in 2014. So what does your profile look like? See, here's the other thought shift that has to happen. Not only are you and I being profiled, not only are we being tracked, they know our name. They know who we are. I think we look at the World Wide Web as this general, just sort of mass of data. What the last 2 clips have shown you is, no, it's personal. It's specific. So what does your profile look like, and what are you communicating about yourself? So here's the difference. When we say profile, here's a big difference. Okay? Here's an example of something a lot of you could probably relate to, an Instagram profile. Okay? This is your bio. So take a look at this person. This is an adult. Right? So they're telling you that they are a passionate social media manager. I have no idea what that means. I mean, that could mean, you know, I have lots of accounts and I'm temperamental. I mean, it could mean a lot of things, right? They also like little emojis, right? So they are a lover of coffee and wine and fashion. And they love taking pictures with their 5S. Couldn't even just be I love taking pictures. It's with my specific kind of camera. I don't even know what that next pure, I don't even know what that is, right? But they like it pure, apparently. They're a happy wife, and they're a mother of 3, apparently, snowmen. Okay, so that. And then you look at the pictures. Those are very cultivated pictures, because I will tell you, I've been eating food for a long time. And before cell phones came along, never did I think, hold on, click, right? And never did I think, how am I going to arrange this? How am I going to plan all this out? Like, I've never held a glass of milk and a cookie and went, wait, hold on. Got it. Okay, what? Never. Okay, eat the cookie, drink the milk, get more. There you go. All right. And then there's blog. So if you like all of these things, read more. This is the way we typically understand a profile. And the idea here is it's intentional, it's cultivated, and it's what we want people to see. It's what we want people to see. The kind of profile that's being built not only includes all this, it also includes all the things you don't want people to see. And this is the issue with information. When you're in control of the information, that's one thing. One of the things that we're learning now in 2014, we're not in control of the information. And these things are, and it's not just in terms of what they're going through my click streams, right? So all those times when you're clicking away when no one is watching, people are watching. And they're building a profile on that, okay? Now, I would like you to do the following. I'd like it to not take very long, but I would like you, when I show you the next picture, if you have ever had this game or currently have had it, you currently have it or have had it on your phone, without talking, please stand up. So if you have or have had Angry Birds, just stand up. All right. Okay. Take a look around the room real quick. All right, have a seat. All right. So far we've talked about web browsing. All right. Let's take a look. That's why we have cases. All right. Let's take a look at phones.
If you were one of the billion people who have downloaded the popular game app Angry Birds to your smartphone, or you were one of the 50 million people who downloaded the Brightest Flashlight free app, you didn't realize that the companies that gave them to you for free were using the apps to track your every movement and passing it on to other companies.
Your smartphones are basically little mini tracking devices, and it's collecting information about where you are traveling through the day as it's on in your pocket or in your purse.
Federal Trade Commissioner Julie Brill says geolocation data on individuals has become a hot commodity.
How sensitive is that information?
It's the kind of information that really talks about who you are on a day-to-day basis, where you go, and who you might be visiting with, what shops you may frequent, what time you come home, what time you leave.
And that's not all. The iPhone app for Path Social, which was designed to help young people share photos and memories with friends, was caught sneaking into users' digital address books and filching their contact information.
This app was going into people's phones and collecting that information without their knowledge.
Right. It was downloading their contact list off of their phone. Right.
You say information from the address book. What does that include?
It could include, and did in this case, include things like Facebook usernames, Twitter usernames, birth dates. So it can be fairly detailed and personal information that is contained within a contact list or address book.
The FTC, which is one of the few agencies with any jurisdiction over data brokers, fined the company $800,000 for deceptive trade practices.
Brokers don't know who the data brokers are. They don't know the names of these companies. They have no way to know, what website am I supposed to go to? Who do I call? What letter do I write?
So, one of the things that sneaks up on us is this idea of free. Right? Hey folks, nothing is ever free. I mean, think about it. There's so much time, so much initial investment in creating a video game. And most video games fail. Incredibly expensive to do. So something's got to go off in your head to go, why would they give that to me for free? They don't even know me, so it's not because they just like me. It's they want something. And whatever it is that they want, they feel like A, is going to be valuable enough in terms of money to make it worthwhile, and B, we know we can get it. So, when they give you free Angry Birds, because, I mean, if you describe Angry Birds, let's say somebody has no idea what it is. What is this Angry Birds? Well, you're these plump little ill-tempered birds. You know, and you hurl yourself at arrogant cows. It's fantastic, right? Right, I mean, it sounds stupid. Pigs, okay. It sounds stupid, and it is, also very addicting, but my point is, the creators of it had an ulterior motive. And you and I have no idea. No idea. So here's what you need to know. The online world is intentionally layered. There are layers to it. Most people just tend to go right to the top layer. So here's the questions that we have to ask. So what's going on right in front of me that I'm not aware of? One of the things that you have to understand about the online world is that they know how we think. And I'm not trying to create some like sort of mass conspiracy here, but you have to understand, people who do this are very smart. They understand how we think. And one of the things that they know about teenagers is that teenagers are notorious for acting first and thinking later. So if they get it, it's free, it's cool, it's fun, can I get it on my phone? Okay, seems harmless enough. Then they've gotten what they want. So your generation in particular has to be aware of things because they have a bigger profile on you than any other generation because you've grown up online. We haven't as adults, but you've grown up online. So here's what has to happen. If you're a Christian, you have to understand something about technology. Technology is God's idea. God is not sitting up there with Jesus and the Holy Spirit going, what are we doing about the internet? What's with all the cell phones? Right? It's his idea, which means it's a good thing. Which means we need to use it as an act of worship. What does that mean? In a way that honors God and is good for others. So technology is not a bad thing. Stewardship means to take care of something. So if you have a phone, you may think, well, this is my phone. I remember one time in the junior high, it was during the holidays, we were showing, we showed about a half-hour clip of something, and it was really important. We had all the junior hires here, and we said, for this time, we would like you to be as undistracted as possible. So we have 4 bins in the back, one for 7th grade girls, one for 7th grade boys, 8th grade girls, 8th grade boys. We would like you to go back in the next minute and just carefully drop your phone in the bin. And literally half the kids like recoiled. And some of them like tried to bury it further in their pocket. And then they literally asked someone like, well, are you going to give it back? Like, nope, I'm going to steal your phone. I'm going to sell it to the Russians. So, you know, right? But they literally, and some of them like tried to sneak it. Think about it. 30 minutes of just watching something, but I have to have my phone. You need air and food and a pair of pants. That's really all you need, all right? But I have to have it. So, here's what has to happen. We have to be able to, as Christians, to step back and to start with a view of technology from a biblical sense, not from a cultural sense. And so what we're going to focus on today, this first part, is representation. Okay? Representation. Now, what would happen? Here's what the high school kids are doing today. Because the high school kids are going to get a version of this chapel on Thursday. And this is the question that they answered today. I said, okay. So let's say, scenario, somebody gets a hold of your computer or your phone. And so they then start posting pictures, links, likes, comments on all your social media platforms, posing as you. Some of them are pretty innocent, some are questionable, and some are really offensive. But every single person who is in your network thinks this is you doing this. And I said, how would you feel? What would you be most concerned about? What would you be most worried about? And if this has ever happened to you, you realize how much of a problem it is. And it's a problem of representation. Particularly if they're doing things that are not authentic to you or are offensive, I would imagine the first thing you'd want to say is, I didn't do this. If that's your first reaction, which is a good reaction, that means you care about representation. If you have ever been gossiped about, you know what so-and-so said? Do you know what Olson said? Well, here's what I heard. And it's not true, and you hear about it? Do you care about that? Yes, which means you care about representation. Don't misrepresent me. So how do we use technology for the glory of God and good of others? How do we represent God in a way that is honorable? Well, let's think about a few things here. So this is Romans 11:36, which then goes right into Romans 12. The key word is in red, therefore. If you've never heard it, anytime you see the word therefore, you have to ask, what's the therefore? Therefore. Because it means there's a transition. So, the verse in yellow there, for from him and through him and for him are all things. You know what that means? Your phone. That means technology. That means your social media websites, your platforms, the games that you play, your game handles. All of that falls under that first verse. To him be the glory forever. Amen. Therefore, now keep going. I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. So the question you have to ask as a Christian is, am I using technology in a way that is worshipful? Am I using it in a way that would be pleasing to God? And if you have ever been caught looking at something that you shouldn't have been looking at, or with something questionable, what's behind that is you veered away from viewing things, is this pleasing to God? And it continues. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Here's where you have to be careful. My oldest daughter's 15, and she is driving. She's got a permit, which means I moved from the driver's seat now to the passenger seat. And so I help her drive. And one of the things, she's a really good driver. She really is. But like all young drivers, her struggle is looking at all the places where we need to look. The BCS parking lot is a mess. I'm always telling her, look left. Did you look right? Got to look over your shoulder. You can't just trust your mirrors. Did you look there? Oh. Okay. Make sure you see that guy. Did you see that guy coming? Oh, I didn't. All right. Now that's part of learning. But they're blind spots. And why are they blind? Because you can't see them. Part of your struggle as a generation who's growing up online is you are much more familiar with the culture than you are with Scripture. You're much more familiar with, here's how you do things online. Here's how the world works. Part of being a Christian is you don't start with how the world works. You start with the idea of, in the beginning, God. And so when it says, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, the question is, do you think like a Christian, or do you think like the world in terms of how you use technology? And if we looked at one of your profiles, think about it. I just said, all right, I got all your information. Let's just say I got Emily Grochel's information. I didn't. She's just sitting in the front row. And I said, we're going to spend an entire chapel just looking at every single part of her profiles. Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Now, the question is, Emily's going to go, how do I feel about that? We would all feel that way. And so the idea is it going to reflect more of a godly idea or a cultural idea? We tend to be more familiar with the culture than we are with Christ. So then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is. Your generation needs incredible wisdom. I'm so glad that I was a teenager in the 80s. I mean, the fashion was terrible and the music was weak, but we just didn't have very many options. Like, you could only watch TV on a TV. And for a while, I had like 40 channels, and half of them were news, and who wants to watch that, right? Music, it only came through certain times. It just was, I came home from school, and I was totally away from school. I didn't have to have 50 ongoing conversations all the time. I didn't have, it was easy. It was a simple, clean time in a lot of ways in terms of boundaries and expectations. You don't have that. You're on all the time, whether you want to be or not, it seems like. And so, how do we think? How do we think through what we post? How do we think through what we say? How do we think through what profile am I creating, including what I would rather not have people see? Because that is what's going on, and it has your name on it. This is why your parents struggle. I'm a dad, I got 3 kids. I struggle with this, right? I keep thinking, my son is 10. He'd just play Clash of Clans all day long if he could. Okay? But now, how much did he pay for Clash of Clans? Okay? So I'm all going, they're tracking my 10-year-old. Now, it's a pretty boring track, as it should be for a 10-year-old, right? But he's already in, and I let them in. Dad, can I go Clash of Clans? Yes. Well, I didn't think it was coming with other things, right? So this is challenging. This is challenging to learn as we go through, which is why it's important that we take a biblical approach to this and try to think about these things, okay? And we'll close with this. It has never been more important to think before you act. Never been more important to think before you act, because how you act is permanent.